So we should probably just jump into the thick of the thing that probably completely destroyed my mental thing. I mean, after I got past the divorce thing and everything, and we were happy. God knows we were happy. I went to college. So college was something. I mean, the first year was fantastic. I liked the first year. Of course, I got a boyfriend like the first 2 weeks into it and everything. We broke up and then had another boyfriend, and we went through the thing. So around like the God, I can't even remember. The second, I've honestly tried to block it out more than anything, but during the second or the third year, um, it was snowing. Of course, everything was pretty much canceled. We couldn't really do anything, so what we do was pretty much hang out with our friends, watch movies and stuff. And this guy came over that came with one of my friends, and he lived all the way across campus, and it was snowing really hard. And of course, I felt bad because I mean, she just lived down the hall. She lived in the same dorm I did, and I lived over here and everything. And she's like, well, I have my roommate over there, so it was during the thing that she couldn't really have him over and stuff like that, and my roommate was gone. So I'm like, well, that's fine. I'm like, he can bunk down in here. I don't care, and everything like that. Um, so so this guy and everything like that. I mean, he was a nice guy. I mean, I, I'm I I'm not a big fan of anything casual or otherwise. I mean, this guy was fine. And of course, we we were we were drinking and stuff like that, and we had the thing. Well, he 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 wanted to do he wanted to have sex, and I didn't want to. I didn't really want to at all. I didn't want to be there, and it wasn't since I was drinking and everything like that. I It was hard. It was one of those things like I felt bad because I didn't want to send him. All I kept thinking that it was snowing outside, and I didn't want him to walk in the snow, and I didn't want something to happen, and then maybe I was what my brain does is think of every single possible outcome that could happen. I'm like, what if something happens? What if he falls and gets hurt? What if something that? And I didn't want to. I thought we were just there. We were gonna watch movies. We were just gonna drink, and then we were gonna go to sleep. And I'm like, the other bed's over there, and he decided he wanted to sleep in my bed, and I'm like, put the other bed's over there, and yeah, that happened. And then he proceeded to roll over and go to sleep while I was sitting there crying. And I got out of bed and I went to the bathroom in the dorm, and it was about 2 in the morning and everything, so everyone's sleeping, and I basically just sat on the bathroom floor and I cried. I didn't want to tell anyone. I didn't want to tell anyone what happened because I felt like it was, in the long run, it was my fault. I should have done something then. I should have pushed him. I should have done something. I I didn't know what to do. And I just sat there. And the next morning he messaged me, and because my friend found me because I was crying and I was upset, he left at some point because I went back to the room and everything because I didn't want other people to find me crying. I just went back to my room and I fixed his head in bed. At some point he left because I cried myself to sleep and I didn't know. And she came over and was asking if everything was all right, and I told her, and he apologized later the same day. And I'm like, I, uh, yeah, I just So, basically, after that incident with the guy, that's when my mental health started to take more of a hit. A bad hit. At that time, I hate to admit it, but I hurt a lot of people while I was also hurting myself and everything. I wasn't hurting myself in the conventional trying to cut myself or anything like that. I was hurting myself in the way that I felt like I was worthless and that I didn't deserve anything and that I was basically just here to be someone that men could just have. I was here more of a, as I like to call myself, a placeholder. I was someone just to be here if a guy needed me, which wasn't the greatest because unfortunately I was looking for someone to care for me and care about me and tell me that everything was okay. And I thought that these guys that I was hanging out with, which were like either my friend's ex or something like that, were going to be those guys. I thought they were going to be different because they saw that I was suffering. They did, and because they were my friends too, and they saw that I was suffering, and they would hang out with me and stuff like that, and it made me feel like I was important, and make me feel like they cared. And then once they got what they wanted, whether it be an intimate way or whether it be that they got to be with the girl they actually wanted to be with, they kind of pushed me to the side. Like, I didn't matter. Like, I mattered for the time that they had me and everything like that, but then at some point they're like, they just be like, oh, well, I'm dating someone else now, or, oh, I'm this, and they would just leave me. And then it just started to get worse because I would see them be happy and I just would be like, this is what my lot in life is supposed to be. My lot in life is to be someone that men can use or be with and pretend that they care about until they get what they really want and everything. And it started to get worse and worse, and it became to me, unfortunately, I was hurting my friends in the process, like I said, because, I mean, in the case of my one friend, I hate that I did this. It was her one ex-boyfriend, and at the time her other ex-boyfriend. I mean, they were both really nice to me. They were. I mean, at the time it was the one, and then she was dating the other guy and everything, and he was really, really nice to me, and I tried to be there. I was trying to be, I wanted to be a friend to her, but I liked him at the time, too, because he was nice to me, and he felt like he could understand, and then I was thrown away again, and then the other guy, same thing, he found someone else, dated her, and then, I was thrown away again. So, even during this time, at some point, it just became too much, and I just wanted to die. I did. At college, I wanted to. I felt like I really didn't matter. I'm like, I have dads that don't care about me. I have friends that look at me like I'm the worst person in the world. I have guys that use me. I didn't understand why I was here. College was getting harder. I didn't have anything. I just had school, and then I would go back to my dorm, and I would just either sleep or be by myself, because all my friends had boyfriends or had other people they would hang out with, and I was just left alone. And that's when it became too much. There was a bridge near where our school was, and I didn't answer any calls, I didn't answer any texts, I didn't want to do anything with anyone. I just went there, and I contemplated, maybe I should just jump. And God knows I'll tell my mom that I didn't want to, but I did. I wanted to. I just didn't want to be here. And I still wonder if I even made the right choice of not jumping or not doing something. So, that night on the bridge and everything, when I wanted to, my real friends were searching for me everywhere. They were calling people they didn't know where I was because I just told them I was somewhere. I didn't want them to find me, and my one friend found me, and unfortunately they called the cops. Everyone, I swear it was bad because there was like cop cars, flashing lights, and everything like that. And during that time, I didn't realize that I crossed over into a different state because where my college is on the border of West Virginia and Maryland. And whereas West Virginia does not have a 72-hour cycle, Maryland does. And I crossed over into Maryland, and I thought I could do what I was really good at, which is talk my way out of saying no, I wasn't trying to do anything or anything like that, and they took me anyway. So for 72 hours, I was in a psych hold in the hospital where I felt like I just shut down. I felt like all my friends hated me. I felt like my mom hated me. I hated that my mom had to drive up there. I hated my mom had to find out that way of what I was feeling. That I didn't tell her anything that happened about with that guy or anything like that. I didn't tell her anything. But that's how she had to find out of what was going on, that everything was becoming too overwhelming for me to handle. And after that, the school told me I had to go, and then that was the next blow. Because I basically just ruined me in school. They told me before I was allowed to come back, I had to go to counseling. I had to go to a psychiatrist. And everything. And I just didn't want to talk to anyone. I didn't want to be around anyone. When I went home, I pretty much just shut out my mom the entire time. I was upset at the whole entire family. Because it's like when you have mental illness, you feel like people should know. You feel like people should be able to know that there's something wrong without you telling them. You don't want to broadcast that you have something wrong with you. I feel like some people just, like for me, I feel like some people should just know and should want to help and not just sit there and pretend like everything's fine or just ignore everything. And that's what everyone did, is just ignore that everything was fine. That they just thought that, oh, it's fine, it's just stress, it's just college, it's fine. When it wasn't. It was so much more. Things that had been happening for years before then and everything like that. Things that weighed on my mind. The fact that my dad left me, the fact that all this stuff and everything just finally came to everything in college with that. Because it was like one blow just to determine that, oh my god, they're like, this is what it is, I'm worthless. This is what it was. I just kept thinking, they're like, your biological dad abandoned you, your dad abandoned you. You've had people that have cheated on you. You've had friends that have basically betrayed you. You've had a guy that used you. You had 2 other guys that used you in a different way. You had people that looked at you and just figured that you were fine, and it just became it was just too much for me to handle. So counseling was the only thing that I had, and I enjoy counseling. It was finally like having someone, whether it be that they were paid to do it or not, they finally had someone to listen to me, that I could rant, that I could finally sit there and have my mom listen to me about the things that were going on. And have my dad come and listen, where my dad completely shut it out anyway. He didn't see that there was anything wrong. It was like pulling teeth trying to get him to come to the counselor, but I'm like, it was finally people could actually hear me without just pushing to the side. I went to the psychiatrist, and that's when, I went to the psychiatrist, and that's when they said that I had bipolar depression and I had anxiety, which, again, probably both true. I often question the bipolar thing more and more now, with research that I've been doing about autism, but yeah, he's just like, you're bipolar and stuff, and of course, what do? They give you meds. What did I do? I took them for a while, and then I stopped because I didn't see the point. to this day, I still don't take meds. Um, when I go to the doctor, I tell them I haven't taken them. But so again, the weird thing about mental illness is it's a double-edged sword in the fact of, yes, you wish that people would know, you do, but the fact is, when people do know, they start treating you differently. My favorite is doctors. Doctors treat you differently. So when I first when I first was doing the pill and I was taking things and stuff, when they first diagnosed me with bipolar and depression, and after all this bridge stuff and everything like that, I went to the doctor for something completely unrelated, actually. I forget what I exactly went there for. And I think they were just checking to see how my meds were going, if we needed to up them or anything. And she asked me if she asked me, it was a PA, she asked me if I was just feeling how I was feeling and everything. And of course, I was having a hard week that week. I think I skipped a couple of pills by accident. I was trying to take them like I was supposed to. I skipped a couple of pills, and I told her I wasn't feeling that great. I was feeling sad, depressed. I felt like I was having those thoughts again. And you think that you're in a really safe place with a doctor, and that it'd be just well, you have to remember to take your pills. She called the fucking cops on me. She did. She called the cops on me. Next thing you know, I was being taken out the back of the doctor's office, put into the back of a cop car, and taken to the emergency room, where a cop basically watched over me. Now, the fun thing about my town and my hospital is that even though they don't have a 72-hour cycle, they don't. So we went back to the emergency room and everything like that, and they asked me how I was feeling, and I said, I'm fine. They're like, do you have thoughts? I'm like, nope. I'm like, that was the other day. I'm like, that's not today. I'm like, I don't have those feelings or anything like that. You can tell them anything, and they basically just said, oh, okay, well, you can go home. So it really depends. I mean, that's the horrible thing about mental illness in America, and probably most of the world, is that people don't care. They really don't. They won't treat you for mental illness. People don't give it a whole lot of they don't give it a second look or anything. It just depends on where you are. I was just in the unfortunate one that one day that I crossed over to Maryland, they put me in a 72-hour cycle. But that being said, I finally had people freaking listen to me for the first time with counseling and stuff, because otherwise I'm like, I wasn't going to get it because no one thought it was necessary. So when I went there and they didn't think there's like nothing wrong, it's fine. And it was, I went back to school later after I met all the requirements. I had to do counseling in school, which was nice because, again, I had someone to talk to. I felt like half my friends weren't talking to me anyway. I felt like they just kind of looked at me. All my other friends and everything like that were in relationships and too busy to really give me the time. So I felt like in the senior year I was kind of alone. I had to go to summer school and make up for credits and stuff that I missed. It wasn't that much though, but you know, after that, after college, after I graduated, I mean, I'd like to say that my depression stuff but then I realized that I was really, really alone after college, where before I was on the campus, I had friends and stuff like that we could hang out with on Saturday night and stuff. When I came back here, I was back in a house where I felt like I was looked at like I was completely insane half the time. I couldn't find friends to hang out with or anything like that. I didn't have people to talk to or really to be with because everyone had their own lives, and I just felt alone again. And unfortunately, when I'm alone, I get trapped in my mind, and my mind, if it's not obvious, is not the greatest place in the world to be. So what else could I do? But I got a job. That's what I needed to do. I mean, I was 23. I had to get a job at some point. So that's how I started where I work now, which kind of leads into why my mental health isn't so great now.